Welcome back to More Than a Score. I'm your host, Elijah Fields. I'm joined today by Coach Brook Cupps. Coach, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, man.
Pretty much what I want to talk to you about is very well documented that you're big in leadership. And what we need in sport, as well as mental health, is people who are good leaders. And I figured, I get a chance to sit down, talk to you today. But if you would go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a high school basketball coach and leadership teacher at Centerville High School. I've been coaching for 23 years now, I think, 23, 24 years. I spent my first 12 years at St. Paris Graham High School in Champaign County. And then I spent the last 11 down here at Centerville. And I've been teaching a leadership class, which I kind of wrote the curriculum for started teaching that about 5 or 6 years ago. I was a math teacher before that, and kind of got into the leadership stuff and started kind of a group before school that turned into an elective class at Centerville, which has been really cool to be able to kind of share some of that stuff and impact kids outside our basketball program.
That's awesome. So I just want to go ahead and dive right in. In order to get a team going in the same direction as a coach, you have to act as a guide. Mentally, what kind of guide do you strive to be for your team?
I think first of all, it goes to who you are as a person. I think we always have to start with a self-awareness of ourselves if we're going to lead other people. So, my goal for the guys that on our team is I just want to be authentic. I want to be who I really am and I want to be that, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm being a parent, whether I'm being a husband. I want to be that same consistent off self all the time. So I think, in my opinion, people are inspired and follow authenticity over charisma and all that other stuff that they think kind of gets the press or draws the attention. So that's the first thing. And then I think from there, when you really know who you are, then I think it's about developing relationships and building trust. In our program, we try to focus on vulnerability-based trust, where we are trying to get to know you personally. Like, what do you believe? What matters to you? What's important to you?
Yeah.
How do you handle pressure? How do you handle adversity? And you're really trying to know you as a person and allow, getting you opened up to where, you're allowing your teammates to really know you and really honestly share stuff that could be used against you. And then when it's not, I think that creates kind of that vulnerability loop where, okay, I recognize that I'm safe here and I can share more and I can share more and I can share more. And ultimately we want everybody to be an open book and us be kind of going at it together.
Often, whether it be culturally or athletically, especially in the more male dominant sports, you hear a lot of, toughness. And oftentimes, being vulnerable isn't something that can be seen as tough. But I'm sure you would agree with me on this. Being vulnerable as an athlete is the tougher part. So once you show you can be vulnerable, you show a sense of toughness in that. I have a couple of friends who have had the opportunity of playing for you. I'm good friends with Big Mo. My friend CJ Burnett, his whole family has just raved about you. And they often talk about the environment you've created as a place where, guys want to be. And oftentimes that's so huge, no matter what level it's on, creating an environment that people want to be in. How big of a role does environment play for you and your team from a mental perspective?
As a coach, I think one of your primary goals is to create a space where people can not only be who they are, but so like our culture and our environment around our team. That's of paramount importance for us. Like we don't make any bones about. We think that is our advantage, and that's what drives us in terms of being able to compete at a really high level. We've been blessed to have some really good players, but I think a lot of times, when things get tough, we say you can't be tough alone. Like, you need guys to help you be as tough as you can possibly be. And I think that mentality has served us well, and hopefully something that guys take with them. I think the whole idea of sports gets this kind of crazy thing where it's all about getting a scholarship. It's about getting this. It's about it. Like, it's not about any of those things. Like, sports are a platform to learn about life. Like, that's what sports were originally meant for, is to teach us to handle adversity and be a teammate. And so when you get back to that basis for the real purpose of sport, then it's a lot easier to value the right things. But society does a good job of pulling you away if you're not careful.
That, and honestly, you hit it right on the head there. The idea of sport, what you just spoke on, is essentially what I call the art of sport. Like, it's ultimately, sport has the ability to bring us together, tear us apart, but ultimately it gives you those lessons that you need in life that, maybe other things won't provide. That's awesome that you say that. I gotta ask, just because I also know, I'm really good friends with the Newsom family. Obviously, Brad Newsom, he was an assistant coach of yours, and he just speaks very highly of you,
Yeah.
of how you address the game from a mental perspective. I gotta ask, how much of the game is mental for you?
We in our program, the mental side of it is very important, and it's way beyond basketball, obviously, because our core values are tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. And you spoke about toughness. Like, toughness to us is positive body language, and that positive body language is driven by your inner voice, which is your mind, and like, what are you telling yourself consistently? And if you can get to that strong voice and stay there, that's the only way you can have positive language. Because if your mind's telling you
Yeah.
something bad, your body's just reflecting what your mind's saying. And so, we spend a lot of time on trying to get guys to buy in and really embrace that mental side of it too.
I'm sure everyone who is, follows Gabe, knows this. Last year, it was either last year or the year before, you put a book out. And I got a chance to read that book. If you could just go back and talk to some of those things that you highlight, because I really enjoyed it, as someone who is around basketball, as someone who, eventually will be a father. Can you talk about what it means to be mentally available to those around you? So, the clock hit 0-0, and then you now have to answer to those around.
So I never really intended to write a book. I mean, I kind of started writing when we were on shutdown with COVID, and I would just get
Mhm.
up in the mornings and I'd write for 4 or 5 hours. I wake up early anyway, so I would just get up and I would just write. And after you just
Yeah.
write every morning for 4 hours, like, there's a lot of words there after a while, right? And one of my friends, Ryan Hawk, was like, "Dude, you just need to publish it. Like, stop being a sissy. Like, just publish it." Because I
Yeah.
was like, it was kind of fun. Like, I like to do hard stuff, and it was one of those things that was hard in a completely different way for me. So it challenged me and helped me grow, because one of the cool things about writing is you think you know what you want to say until you have to write it down and choose the words that really reflect what you want to say. And then
Yeah.
you have to really dig down and like massage that message to be exactly what you want. So the writing of the book was cool. And it's written as a leadership parable, more of a fable, like, of my journey as a coach.
Yeah.
I've got some different things in there, so it's not completely 100% like a biography or anything, but it's loosely based on my journey as a coach and where I started viewing coaching, which was just a transactional deal. I'll tell you what to do and how to play good basketball. You win games and we're good. Like, I'll still talk about, like, yeah, I like this kid, he played hard, but we won't really have
Mhm.
a full investment in our relationship. And into what, how I view coaching now, really, I mean, it's a partnership and a relation that's going on for the rest of our lives. And they change me and hopefully I change them, so it's much more transformational. And my goal is to impart my values: tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. Who I think I'm meant to be. That's my authentic self. And I just want to help them grow in those areas. It doesn't mean that's their values. A lot of my coaching now is focused on that. Basketball is my platform to do that. But
Yeah.
ultimately the goal is always to move them forward in those areas and help them see that success is a liar. Like, when you, like, just winning on the scoreboard, that does not mean you've performed at your best, and losing on the scoreboard doesn't mean that other person is superior to you.
Yeah.
I think we hurt young people when we allow that to be the defining factor and the basis for success everywhere, which is how society defines it. I get that, but we talk a ton about we're seeking excellent success, and excellence is just your best, just regardless of what anybody else is doing, like, your best. And that's really what we're going for. I think that's what we're supposed to do in life, is take the gifts that we've been given and maximize them. And then you asked the question about being mindfully aware. I think when you're authentic and you're living in your values and you're committed to that, I think the ability to be present is a lot easier because you're not comparing yourself. You're just focused on being the best version of you. Comparison and, fear and anxiety are both things that aren't happening present, right? You're afraid of what might happen and you're worried about what did happen. Those are all things that are based a lot of times. And then when you can detach from those things and you can just focus on what's happening now, then it's a lot easier to be mindful and locked into the relationships that you have, basketball, family when I'm home. So I think it's all kind of in there together.
And honestly, that this is that moment in the podcast where it's like, if people are just listening in their car or they're listening at work or they're just using it to, to cancel out the white noise. I hope that's the part that they hear, because ultimately you talked about what destroys our young people, and then you see it reoccurring as they get older. So the ones who do end up having success in their sport, the idea of winning impacts them at a higher level. And honestly, that's what this whole, that's essentially one of the reasons I wanted to start something like this. And I gave it the name More Than a Score, because when the clock hits 0-0, what are you? And who are you left inside? And that's why I feel like you're, a great person to have, because, you talk about a lot in your book. Anyone who's ever heard you speak on any platform, you always go back to the core values. And I feel like, that there's not enough of that. So I appreciate you speaking on that. How do you mentally accept change, whether it be as a coach, a father, a husband? Feel free to speak on all three if need be. But how do you accept change? Because change is something it has a tendency to be a little hard on the brain.
I mean, my thought process around it is first of all, I don't think you deserve anything. I think everything is either loaned or given to you. So I think it's important that you're able to detach from things. And so, like the house I live in, it's not mine. I'm just living here right now. And even as deep as my reputation, that's something other people have given me. That's not something that I own. And so we can detach from things and realize that, some things are good and some things are bad. There's an old Chinese parable that talks, it's this old farmer, and his horse, one of his horses runs away, and his neighbor comes over and goes, "Oh man, what bad luck. Your horse ran away." And the old farmer goes, "Maybe so." And the horse comes back, and the neighbor comes by and he says, "What good luck. Your horse came back." And the old farmer's like, "Maybe so." And the boy, his son, is riding the horse off, and the neighbor comes over and he's like, "What bad luck. Your son broke his leg." And the farmer's like, "Maybe so." Right. Yeah. And then the army comes to draft, and the neighbor comes back, and the neighbor comes and he's like, "Oh, what good luck." And so I think we like to judge things and we like to put them in these boxes. And the reality is we don't know any of that stuff. We tell ourselves these stories, we get in these narratives about whether things are good or bad. Reality is we have no idea whether it's good or bad. And it's likely that it's neither one of them or an equal combination of both of them. For me, it's the detaching part. I can detach, or I try to detach from feeling like I deserve anything or that I own anything. And then change is it just is.
That's a really good point. Honestly, I feel like, again, that's one of those things that, it's not heavily spoken on. It's like change is always seen as bad. And then, you take a while before you finally accept it as good. But by the time you've already accepted it as good, it's almost too late to see, how good it's been the whole time. That's awesome that you speak on that. Anyone, again, who knows you across the Dayton area that knows that you've put together essentially a powerhouse of a basketball program, how do you mentally prep and condition your program top to bottom, whether it be your players, your staff? I noticed that you guys have a very deep appreciation for your managers. I enjoy that as a college basketball manager myself. I appreciate that. So top to bottom, what does that look like?
The message is, we're here teaching tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. Basketball is our vehicle to do that. It was kind of cool. The group that won the state in 2021, that was my first group. They were third graders. So they were the first group that had gone all the way through from start to finish through our program. And so that was pretty cool. to see that kind of being the end of their progression. And so, and then as they go through, we talk about tough as being positive body language and attacking moments and being fight ready and going after the things that you're going that whatever you're doing. And then passionate for us is choosing extra work. And I would say this is probably the one for us that's probably highlighted the most outside of our program, because a lot of people talk about our breakfast club stuff where we come in and before school and we shoot. And it's a huge part of who we are. Like we're going to work. Me personally, like I've never felt like I'm super talented. Like I'm not great at anything. I'm okay. What I'm good at is working, and I'm willing to work at it really hard to give ourselves the best chance that we can have. And our guys have embraced that. The unified piece goes to kind of me personally, like just like I didn't think I'm not real good at anything. What I do know I'm good at is I'm way better in a team than I am as an individual. And so like I see myself as very average as an individual. And like if I'm in a team now, like I can go, like they make me better and I can make them better. And so I I love wolves. Like wolves are like the thing for me.
Yeah.
Like the pack of wolves is kind of what I envision. Like, they
Yeah.
can do a lot of things together. And we're not a lion or a tiger, right? That's not
Right.
who we are. It's not who we see ourselves as. We see ourselves as just kind of a nasty, grimy pack of wolves that just gonna kind of keep coming, but we're coming together. And
Right.
so that unity is a huge deal for us, and knowing that we're probably not as talented as a lot of the other teams and a lot of other people, which we're good with that. That's cool. And then thankful, I think we talk about, drink the water, but remember who dug the well. And so I think that's a
Yeah.
sweet quote for our guys. Like we recognize those guys. We recognize Joey Weingartner, like because our
Yeah.
guys that won a state championship aren't winning a state championship if Joey Weingartner it doesn't come in for 2 years by himself for Breakfast Club, right? If Breakfast Club
Hmm.
dies, then we're not winning the state championship in 2021. And so being willing to express that, like we have Thankful Thursday in our program, and we will text former players and we'll call people and we'll write thank you letters, and I just think it's how you should live your life, expressing and appreciating the people that have given you the opportunities that you have. Like it goes a little bit with the detachment stuff. Like we don't deserve anything. Everything that we have is
Mm.
given to us. Every single thing that we have. And when we have that mentality and we can have that appreciation, I think it's the right way to live life, and I think it's the right way to see yourself on a team. And so, kind of pulling those all together is really what's allowed our program, in my opinion, to kind of move forward. And
That's awesome. And honestly, like there's you'll probably notice there were some things you said I smirked a little bit. I smirk not because they're funny, but because it's ironic. Like I said, I read your book, so to hear you speak on those things, like from a first person perspective, like that, that's awesome to me to know that I have someone who can talk about being true and authentic like that. That's amazing. Before we end today, I do have three things. Two of them are questions about the book. I feel like real quick, I just want to encourage anyone who hasn't read the book, please go read the book. It's going to be posted in the link below. It's a really great read. Two things that I feel pertain to, what this project is about, what More Than a Square is about. Two things I feel like that I got to ask. In your book, you talk about attacking every opportunity, and then in your program, you guys chart touches. Now, I want to speak on the charting touches thing because I feel like as an athlete, every coach should try to implement this, because as I'm reading it, I was like, man, if I had this in high school, this probably would be something that, it boosts the mental confidence. But I'll go ahead and let you have the floor.
we'll set our team goal for the season. And the way we do that is we pose the question to our players. Dad and his 10-year-old son are coming to watch us play for the first time, right? What do we want them to say about us? When they leave the game, what do we want to say about our team? And so that usually starts some discussion. about we want to look like we're playing really hard, that we care about each other, right? That we, that we're skilled, and that we dive on the floor, and that we're tough. And so we take that kind of group of answers and we say, okay, if that's who we want to be, right? That's what this year's team, the 2022-23 Centerville Elks, if that's what we want to be, what do we have to do on a daily basis in order to be able to do that? We get to the final time that in the state championship game, there's a baseline out of bounds with like 1.3 seconds left or something, and they've got it. We're up one, and we come to the call timeout. We come to the huddle, and I got to talk to the coaches, and I'm walking back into the huddle. I hear somebody say, "Just attack the opportunity. Just attack the opportunity," and I was like, that's better coaching than any strategic stuff I can say, man. That's it. Let's go attack the opportunity. And then the other thing you asked me about, the touches. Yeah. So touches goes to our thankful core value. And so if you combine the idea of you can't be tough alone, right? So toughness and thankfulness, I think go together a lot of times for us, because if I really care about somebody, I need to help them. Like, you can either be a lifter or you can be a leaner. Like, we want lifters. We want guys that are going to help people be better, not guys that are going to burden someone else. And so a touch is a powerful, powerful thing. Like a high five. I think if anybody, like, we got in trouble a bunch during the COVID stuff because we wouldn't make our guys stop giving high fives. I said, yeah, well, you just got to, we're not going to stop doing that. And so, it's one of those things that it is a way to help. Like, we frame it like, if you turn it over or you make a mistake, I can help you get back to the prep by giving you a touch. Like, that's how we reset and help other guys get back present. And so, like, if we turn the ball over and it's a dead ball, all of our guys have to go get a touch the guy that turned it over. If we take a charge, everybody's got to go touch the guy that took the charge. And it's just become now, it's pretty second nature to our guys. Interesting when our guys will play AAU or they'll play somewhere else, and like that's not a normal thing. Like it's really weird to our guys that have always been in our program, because they're constantly touching each other and giving each other five. And I just think it's a huge part to stay connected. And I think, back to the bigger picture, what sports are for, like that sense of belonging in just humanity and in the world, like that's a huge thing, man. Like, to feel like you are a part of something special, and our touches bring you back and let you know, like, hey man, you're part of this group, you're important, and what we do here is different. Like, that's a big part of it for us.
That's awesome. And honestly, like I said, with me reading the book, it feels good to hear those things first person, and it's really cool. I feel like any coach, anyone who's wanting to build something, whether it be in the athletic environment or wherever, I feel like there's a lot you could take from those two things, and then this episode alone. Before we end here, this is how I always end. I always ask my guests to give one piece of advice to all the people listening. Just anything that they feel needs to be talked about.
Can I give two? I got
Go
two.
ahead. Yep.
Is that legal?
Yeah, you're good.
The first one is my purpose. I'm really passionate about excellence over success. I mean, I think the more we can help young people, it's just as bad with adults, but the more we can help young people value themselves for who they are and not compare themselves with other people, I think the faster we can move forward, and we can allow them to have fulfilling lives that impact others and in a positive way. And so I think a lot of the depression, anxiety, and all that stuff that's that's hurting young people right now, I think a lot of it is tied to that comparison and that kind of looking outside of yourself and trying to be maybe something that you're not. Helping people know, like, you're good, man. Like, you're good for who you are. You don't need to be anybody else. You just need to be you. Like, be the real, genuine you that you were meant to be. That's the first thing, because that to me, that's my purpose. I think that's my purpose in life, is to inspire others to strive for excellence over success. The other thing is my high school coach, Dave Zeller, man, he gave me one piece of coaching advice. And things are good, coach your team. Things are bad, coach your team. Parents are yelling at you, coach your team. And that for me, big call to be present. And like there's, you're never really ready to be a head coach. I know I wasn't as a young coach. And I think I would have thought more about that early in my career. I think I would have maybe done things a lot differently sooner than I did. But I was worried about a lot of other things in coaching my guys, and your commitment as a leader, as a teacher, a coach, like it's to those guys. Like that's win or lose, it's to those guys. And so just keeping that in the forefront of what you're doing, regardless of the calls, regardless of the score, regardless of the record. I think that's a pretty important thing from a coaching perspective.
Coach, I appreciate you stopping by. I feel like, again, anyone who wants to build something, whether it be mental, physical, athletically, they can listen to this episode. Coach, thank you again. It's a pleasure.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Elijah.